Federal prosecutors have charged two self-professed religious leaders with running a scheme that allegedly used physical and psychological abuse to force their own followers into raising tens of millions of dollars in donations. According to the charges, that money didn't stay with the organization it was supposedly raised for. Prosecutors say it went back to the two people now facing federal charges. Both have been arrested. Both are presumed innocent unless a court says otherwise. Here's where the case stands and what the Justice Department has actually alleged. This video covers how prosecutors say the alleged system of control was built, what specific federal charges the two defendants face, some legal context around religious fundraising and coercive control cases like this one, and the questions the public record doesn't answer yet. We're sticking to what's in the record, not guessing at details the government hasn't confirmed. We read through the charging documents, and one thing jumps out right away. Prosecutors aren't just alleging financial fraud. They're alleging the victims were also the ones doing the fundraising. According to the Justice Department, the two defendants built a structure of control over their followers, using physical and psychological abuse to pressure people into soliciting donations for the organization. The government says this wasn't voluntary religious giving. It was a coerced pipeline. Followers pressured into asking others for money, with that money making its way back to the two people running the operation. The scale isn't small. Prosecutors allege tens of millions of dollars were solicited under this system. That figure comes straight from the government's charging language, not outside estimates, and it's part of why the FBI and Justice Department got involved. Worth pausing here. The dollar figure isn't what's surprising. Large fundraising scandals tied to religious organizations aren't new. What stands out is the mechanism. Followers allegedly became the fundraising instrument themselves, under pressure, instead of simply being asked to give. If the allegations hold up, this looks less like a standard donation fraud case and more like coercive control that happens to run through a religious organization's finances. Some general context, separate from these two defendants specifically. Religious organizations in the U.S. sit in an unusual legal position. Churches and religious groups are generally exempt from the routine financial reporting the IRS requires of most secular nonprofits. They don't file the standard annual public disclosures most charities do. That's long-standing, not specific to this case, but it matters here. The paper trail regulators would normally use to catch fundraising abuse early is often thinner for religious groups. When federal prosecutors bring a case like this, it's usually not tax authorities who move first. It's the FBI, working from victim accounts, subpoenaed financial records, and cooperating witnesses. Here's the part that'll probably get pushback. Cases like this expose a real gap. The legal exemptions protecting religious organizations from routine financial oversight exist for good constitutional reasons. Nobody wants the government auditing sermons. But that same exemption is also, according to prosecutors, what let an alleged coercive fundraising operation run long enough to reach tens of millions of dollars before charges caught up to it. That's not an argument for changing how religion is regulated. It's an argument that the discovery process here deserves real attention, not the just another fraud docket treatment. Where the case stands today, both defendants are charged and arrested, so it moves into the standard federal process. Initial appearance, arraignment, and, absent a plea deal, eventually a trial where the government has to prove every element of every charge beyond a reasonable doubt. Nothing has been proven in court. Both defendants keep their full due process rights, including the presumption of innocence that applies to anyone charged with a federal crime. That's not boilerplate. It's the actual legal status of this case right now, worth remembering every time you see the word charged in a headline. Picture the position described in the charging documents for a second. Told that raising money is devotion, told that falling short is a personal failure, and, per the government's allegations, facing physical or psychological consequences for it. Whether or not you've been near a high control group, it's worth asking yourself honestly how many of the usual warning signs you'd actually catch from the inside, in real time. That's a genuinely open question. Would stronger financial disclosure rules for religious organizations have caught something like this sooner? Or would that kind of oversight cross a line the Constitution is right to protect? There's no obvious answer, and it's worth sitting with. A lot here the public record doesn't answer yet. We don't know how many followers were allegedly pulled into the fundraising, how long the alleged scheme ran before investigators caught it, or whether more charges or defendants follow as the case develops. Those details usually surface through discovery and pretrial filings, not the initial announcement, so we're not going to guess at numbers the government hasn't put on record. If specifics emerge as this moves through arraignment, that's worth coming back for. If you want to follow this yourself instead of waiting for the next headline, the primary sources are public. The FBI publishes national press releases on major cases like this at FBI.gov, the Justice Department's Office of Public Affairs, and the relevant U.S. Attorney's Office publish their own releases when charges are filed, usually the most reliable first-hand account of what prosecutors are alleging. Federal court dockets, searchable through PACER, show the actual filings once an indictment or complaint is public, and if a specific U.S. Attorney's Office is prosecuting. Its website is often the fastest place for scheduling updates. One last thing, a charge is not a conviction, and everything here is legally an allegation until a court says otherwise. But if even part of what prosecutors are alleging is accurate, this is a case about how devotion can turn into a financial machine, and how thin the regulatory tripwires around religious fundraising in this country actually are.